The day of Ashura is marked by Muslims as a whole with a voluntary day of fasting which commemorates the day Noah left the ark and the day that Moses was saved from the Egyptians by God. But for Shia Muslims, it is a major religious commemoration of the martyrdom at Karbala of Hussein, a grandson of the Prophet Muhammad. It falls on the 10th of Muharram, the first month of the Islamic lunar calendar. This year, it was marked on the 10th of September 2019. While the Sunnis follow strictly the path of Muhammad and are popularly referred to as Orthodox Muslims, the killing of Hussein, son of Imam Ali, was an event that led to the split of Islam into two main sects, the Sunnis and the Shiites. This great split was as a result of Hussein not agreeing to the leadership of Yazid, who succeeded his father, Caliph Muawiyah, a chief opponent of Imam Ali, as a leader of the Islamic community. This ensued in fights between the duo, and as a result, Hussein's followers were massacred in the battle at Karbala. Both Ali's and Hussein's death gave rise to the Shia cult and martyrdom, and to the sense of betrayal and struggle against injustice, oppression and tyranny. Today, Shias comprise about 15% of the total worldwide Muslim population. Formed about 4 decades ago, the Islamic movement in Nigeria, largest Shia organization in Nigeria, through the efforts of the leader Sheikh Ibrahim el-Zakzaki, has well-organized branches and administrative structures in most of Nigeria's 36 states to give it the semblance of a government, and operates its own schools and hospitals in some states in northern Nigeria where most Muslims live. And it was in commemorating the Ashura processions, issues arose in Kaduna and Zaria, and what started as a major procession became an issue of controversy for 4 years, with various repercussions between the IMN, the military and the federal government. What triggered the violence is disputed, but the Nigerian army released this video showing members of the Shia Islamic Movement of Nigeria, IMN, blocking the convoy of the army chief, General Tukur Buratai. The military then accused the Shia group of trying to carry out an assassination attempt. This was denied by the IMN, which says the army used it as an excuse to carry out an organized massacre of their members. Following the crackdown in 2015, the IMN says the military stormed the group's sprawling mosque complex, which was later razed to the ground along the Sheikh's house, and that more than 700 of its members were missing, either dead or detained. Meanwhile, Nigerian officials accused the group of wanting to foment an Iranian-style revolution and of being a state within a state, accusations IMN denies. The arrest of the sect leader Sheikh Zakzaki and his wife Zinat followed on December 14, 2015, and later handed in the custody of the DSS since December 15, 2015 for alleged incitement and subversion, with reports that 3 of his sons were killed in clashes between the army and pilgrims in a religious procession. In 2016, Justice Gabriel Kolawole of the Federal High Court delivering a joint judgment in the 2 right enforcement suits filed by the 2 applicants, awarded 25 million naira each, totaling 50 million naira to the Shiite leader and his wife for the violation of their rights by being held in unlawful custody since December 14, 2015. Despite various court injunctions demanding their release, the federal government failed to grant bail. The special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Femi Adesina, revealed that the reason for this was because it appealed the ruling. In 2019, their demands got stronger. The IMN led the master of all protests, demanding the release of their leader, Sheikh Ibrahim el-Zakzaki, and his wife, whom they claimed had grave medical conditions which needed to be treated. Following these protests, a channel's television reporter, Precious Owolabi, and a senior police officer, Usman Umar, were among those killed in the capital, Abuja. This eventually paved way to 2 court orders, one granting the IMN leader permission to travel, and the second prescribing the Islamic movement of Nigeria. Zakzaki's medical trip to India, clouded with so many clauses, was abruptly cut short as the IMN leader accused the federal government of frustrating his treatment efforts by denying him access to the doctors he made prior arrangements with. On the other hand, the federal government accused El Zakzaki of displaying ulterior motives against laid-down procedures. Upon arrival in Abuja, the DSS promptly took El Zakzaki and Zenith back into custody. On prescribing the group, the federal government said it had been taken over by extremists who did not believe in peaceful protests and instead employed violence to achieve its objectives, but the IMN denies being behind the violence and challenged its ban in court. Now a proscribed group and its designation as a terrorist organization, the Inspector General of Police Muhammadu Adamu, September 9th, said that any procession by the proscribed Shiite group amounted to terrorism, but to find all others, members of the Shiite Islamic movement in Nigeria, embarked on its Ashura mourning process in Abuja September 10th. The protest in Kaduna was reportedly violent, as IMN claimed 3 people were killed by the police, including a minor, while in Abuja it was termed peaceful. The police has since denied the report. Above all this, these questions come to bear. Is the prescription legal?
Very well. Once the court has pronounced on an issue, until that pronouncement is set aside by either a superior court or by that same court, the position stands. As it is now, the Shiite group in Nigeria has been proscribed. And so any gathering by them is illegal. And once you commit an illegality, the government, the armed forces, the police, every security agency is allowed to carry out the function of security.
You cannot ban a religious organization in line with our constitution. You can obtain judgment, but will it stand at the end of the day? By the time the issue gets to Supreme Court, I suspect from Court of Appeal it will fail. Don't forget that when the federal government approached the Federal High Court to obtain the order banning the IMN, the Islamic movement in Nigeria, it was done through an ex parte order. But the Federal High Court rule says order granted ex parte only lasts for 14 days. So technically, even though the judge directed that it should be gazetted, but technically it has lapsed. And if you now rely on the government gazette, on the federal government gazette by the Attorney General, it cannot fly, because the Constitution also makes it clear that any secondary legislation, any act of parliament or government directive that runs counter to the provisions of the Nigerian Constitution, will be invalid.
Were the actions and claims of the IMN, Army and federal government justified?
In fact, it is not a justification, for in any situation. Why would you? Because I am the chief of staff and my movement has been obstructed. So why should it lead to that? So these are some of the issues which bother so many people, and that is why foreign governments are not taking us serious. It's blocking the road, obstructing your movement, a justification for killing 350 people.
Will he now allow himself to be taken over? If he's taken over, then the whole security system in Nigeria has been paralyzed. So you can see how it started. For every right-thinking person, is that just? If it is just, is it right? So what is not right cannot be just.
Should the IMN be blamed for the bloody protests?
But not to stop protests. But what we are seeing is that the Nigerian police force, under the guise of trying to ensure public safety, ensure that there is no breakdown of law and order, actually use that to trample on the rights of protesters by forcefully stopping them with tear gas, and which is quite unfortunate. Quite often, is when you see the police intervening with tear gas that violence tends to erupt.
Does the group threaten national interests with its affiliations to Iran?
You cannot, even on account of the fact that allegations were made that they probably were receiving backing, financial or otherwise, from Iran, without establishing it in a court of law, you cannot use that as a basis to proscribe any organization in Nigeria. That would be illegal under our constitution. You cannot. A judge has to establish it. You must establish your case in court.
I don't think that will be accepted. And the government of the country must stand out there to defend its citizens. More so when there is an undertone of another country hosting her flag in this country. There are many video clips that the man is even making himself a president, where he has his own personal soldiers. He has his own personal security outfit. He has his own personal office as the head of a country in another man's country. However, I don't think it is ideal.
Within that context, it's neither here nor there to say Iran is supporting Shiites. There are so many religious denominations in Nigeria, including Christians, who are receiving funding from abroad.
Zakzaki has never publicly advocated violence, but the IMN has a history of clashes with security forces and another Muslim groups. Are we brewing another terrorist group like the Boko Haram, which is a Sunni Islamist militant group? Well, the story goes on. Rita Omodia, Galaxy Television, Lagos.